Greetings, my name is Timothy. I am a human being, a fellow Earth inhabitor, born of the Earth, and observing the Earth's natural cycles and seasons. You can schedule readings and more through my website below. Today is Monday, October 22nd, 2018. I do these videos roughly every 2 weeks, just before a new or full moon. And we're talking about a full moon at 1 degrees of Taurus this Wednesday, the 24th. Now, this month is renowned for this spooky month. Halloween is October 31st, and Halloween is our symbolic reflection of the zodiac sign of Scorpio. Scorpio is the sign that rules transformation, that rules the deep, the dark, the mysterious, and the real. What is taboo, considered off limits, or swept under the rug are the skeletons in the closet. That is Scorpio. And so Halloween is our unconscious celebration of ancient pagan practices that were deemed demonic, swept under the rug, and now unconsciously celebrated by us all, as well as a lot of sexy dressing up and celebration also has a Scorpio type of vibe. Now, it's not just the sun, which is entering the sign of Scorpio tomorrow, the 23rd. We have had both Mercury and Venus in the sign of Scorpio roughly the last 2 weeks. And up until October 31st, Mercury and Venus, who is moving retrograde, are in the sign of Scorpio. And so this last week, this next week, real talk, getting down to business, what's actually going on, coming from our soul's deeper passions. Scorpio rules our soul. It is our soul that desires to transform and evolve throughout full spectrum experiences and many lifetimes of experiences. Scorpio rules our unconscious, all of these past lives, all of these suppressed memories, strange attractions and repulsions, fetishes and phobias come from our own unconscious nature, what is deeply beneath the surface. The majority of the iceberg beneath the water is Scorpio. Now, the sun enters Scorpio tomorrow and will remain in Scorpio until November 22nd. This next month, from October through November, there's a lot of shifting happening in the astrology. For one, Jupiter is going to move into his own sign of Sagittarius come November 8th. Jupiter changes signs approximately every year. And the moon's north node is going to transit out of Leo, ruled by the sun, into Cancer, ruled by the moon, on November 6th, and remain there for another 18 months. So Scorpio deals with transformation, change, attraction, repulsion. It's a very intense, heated up, and simultaneously deep and mysterious water sign. And so the moon's nodes are shifting this next month. Right now, the north node of the moon is in Leo, ruled by the sun. And this next month, there's a lot of change, a lot of adjustment. This can kind of feel like a weird period. When we're in between major cycles, there can be loose ends that are getting wrapped up. The loose ends coming from the north node in Leo from the last 18 months has been about self-expression, coming into our creative center, who we are as unique individuals, and the spontaneous, playful releasing of our own creative expression, our own authentic voice, our own inner child. And so this is wrapping up and coming to a completion this next month. And we're doing the changes, the transformations, the adjustments in terms of how we're expressing ourselves and how we're connecting and sharing with other souls as well. This is a Venus retrograde period. Venus deals with our own electromagnetic field that is emitted from our heart. What we value, what we love and cherish, creates this magnetic field that tends to attract people of a similar wavelength who value and cherish similar things. Our friends and relationships typically have shared values, and as our own deeper values and desires change, Oftentimes, our friends, our relationships, and not just who, but how we are connecting and sharing with others is changing. So this Venus retrograde is about coming into our heart, coming into our soul's depth, honoring our soul's passion, holding this inner flame. What it is we want to address in life, what it is that we're passionate about is what we're getting deeper into as we're simultaneously addressing and eliminating the superficial distractions or interferences that may be getting in the way. Now, this can be easier said than done when life itself is complicated. We are all interdimensional beings that have many different levels of desires, stemming from the level of our own soul's passions to our more superficial needs, to our physical needs for survival, to our body's needs for good health. And so this is a time where there can be a lot of going back and forth and adjustments and balancing the time that we need to fill up our own glass versus the time that we're changing and putting in the great work and catalyzing this transformation and getting submerged in the dramas of relationships, which is this mechanism of change and evolution. I mean, when we talk about Scorpio, again, this is our unconscious dynamics that typically we're made aware of through coming in contact with other people. Scorpio is called our shadow, which is not a negative or problematic thing. It's simply unconscious to us. And oftentimes we're made aware of our own unconscious dynamics by creating friction and coming up against other people's unconscious nature. And this friction, this evolutionary mechanism, is what catalyzes this progressive change and transformation. And again, there's a lot of deep conversation, addressing the real, opening up the closet, talking about what's really going on. And this doesn't have to necessarily be fun or easy. It can be challenging. This can be a time where everything is not perfectly together in terms of this balance between self and other, time and need for spaciousness, and time and need for intimacy and connection. But that's where all the work is ongoing. And as difficult as it may be, I encourage us all to be real, to have these conversations, to address these issues, while simultaneously taking it with a grain of salt and being patient and being relaxed. It's almost necessary to do this deep Scorpio work to balance it out with space for relaxation, time for physical enjoyment, to be able to find comfort, enough to be able to breathe and refill up our glass. That way we don't get swept off our feet by insensitivity or anger or aggression or frustration or anxiety. Now, this full moon on the 24th is a full moon in Taurus, just a degree away from Uranus in Taurus, squaring the moon's nodes. And this full moon is also opposite to Venus in Scorpio. Well, this creates a fixed grand cross. And this can be challenging. Whenever there are planets square the moon's nodes, in evolutionary astrology, they are called skipped steps. They are a part of our intention of what we're bringing in, but it doesn't necessarily come on a silver platter, And so a stereotypical full moon in Taurus is, hey, we want to slow down, we want to relax, we want to replenish ourselves, we want to comfort our bodies. When we think of Taurus, we think of the bull eating grass all day long in these clear and open plains where there's all this spaciousness and there's no sounds, there's no distractions, there's no interferences. Well, Venus and Mercury and tomorrow the sun going into Scorpio is the opposite of Taurus. Taurus and Scorpio are opposite signs. Scorpio is intensity and transformation and conflict and contrast and repulsion and attraction, and it can be very, very claustrophobic feeling. There can be this intensity that feels like we can't escape. And this is where we need to be aware of our nervous system, aware of our body, and doing the necessary work to try and bring in as much spaciousness as we can, even though it may be easier said than done. This full moon's also trine to Capricorn. So the saving grace here is we can be practical, we can do the work, and in many respects this week and this full moon can be somewhat foreshadowing the nearly 8-year transit of Uranus moving through the sign of Taurus for the next 8 to 9 years. And a part of this Uranus-Taurus transit has the intention of Uranus's invention and brilliance and discovery and breakthrough, doing this necessary, progressing, inventive work to discover the means to be able to slow down, create peace, create space, have privacy, be able to relax. Taurus is about sovereignty. Taurus is also ruled by Venus. Venus deals with money as well. Venus deals with energy exchange, this electromagnetic field. And the exchange of money is another energy exchange. This is where a lot of balancing and trial and error is working out. And the key here is with this full moon, square the nodes, is to do authentic Taurus. And I'll use my own life as a personal example here, because as it turns out, I have the moon in Taurus in the 11th house, which is the house of Uranus, square the moon's nodes in the Leo Aquarius polarity. And part of my life's challenge and intention is to get into this Taurus moon and this spaciousness and this relaxation. But with that square, it requires work. It requires effort in order to do this. It doesn't come served on a silver platter. And this can be very frustrating. For example, I grew up in the very cold, snowy, somewhat desolate corner of New York called Buffalo. That's very cold and frigid, and I didn't spend a whole lot of time in nature, believe it or not, where there is 3/4 of the year winter. I spent a lot of time trying to create this spaciousness in a not really comfortable home that was usually cold and empty by getting on the computer and doing this superficial, hey, this is relaxing to me and this feels comfortable, through disassociating out of my body. You know, playing video games like Zelda where I'm running through these synthetic open fields and wow, this feels so great and so relaxing. But does it actually feel great and relaxing in our bodies or our nervous system? No. So there are superficial ways to do Taurus. You know, just watching TV or hermiting ourselves in our room, even though it's not comfortable, even though we're not relaxing, running away from the conflicts of life, trying to just, bypass life and trying to escape and just create this little corner that we can hide ourselves into. The shadow of Taurus is this crustiness or this laziness that doesn't want to get up or want to do anything. And again, what we need to watch out for is this superficial disassociation where we leave our body or we leave this earth. Taurus is about embodiment. It's about getting into our body. The healthy way to do Taurus is to do our workout and then relax. Eat an enjoyable, healthy diet. No, we don't have to do hard-ass G.I. Joe militaristic dieting to be healthy. That's a cultural prejudice. Food is supposed to be comfortable, it's supposed to be enjoyable, but it can also be healthy, in which case it's nurturing and nourishing to our body. I love to use the Buddha as an example for Taurus. The sun was transiting Taurus when the Buddha was enlightened, and he was trying to get enlightened, the hard-ass Scorpio ascetic path, starving himself into enlightenment, and it didn't work. It wasn't until a little girl brought the Buddha a bowl of rice, and he ate that rice, and he comforted his stomach and his senses. That raised the level of his own consciousness, and he achieved enlightenment. Similarly, this is what we're doing right now. We're searching, we're beginning this initiation of what things. Taurus can be things, it can be bodily comfort, it can be our own senses. How we are using these things to raise the level of our own consciousness, to make us more capable, more sovereign. For example, a big part of what's going to be going on this next decade is people trying to come out of the regimes and the systems and the economic structures that are going to be very wobbly and insecure as Uranus is transiting this sign the next decade. And it's like simplification is the wisdom of Taurus, the wisdom of garden. The Garden of Eden, this planet was meant to be a garden. All we'd have to do is take care of the plants and animals and we'd already be there. We've really overcomplicated things in this day and age, but this planet is still one of abundance. You stick one seed in the earth and a plant comes up with hundreds of more seeds, you create hundreds of more plants, and all we do is add sunshine and water. So abundance and comfort and paradise and bliss is not difficult. It's easy. But in this day and age, it's more difficult than we would like to admit. For example, with my moon square the moon's nodes, it's not uncommon for me to go here in the woods or to find a nice hammock and to find a nice place to relax, and the minute I go lay in that hammock, a freaking lawnmower starts or an AC unit turns on, and it's just like, can I get away from this? The last several days, me and my fiance, Mackenzie, were looking for a place to move in the mountains, in nature, where we can get this space. But is it coming served to us on a silver platter? No, not necessarily. We just checked out our friend's beautiful cabin by this beautiful river and beautiful landscape and weather, and it's by a busy road, and there's traffic waking us up at 5:30 in the morning, So it takes time, it takes patience. Not only in pioneering Uranus, discovering how to create healthy, simple ways of making money and feeling abundant and feeling comfortable and sovereign. It's this spaciousness that we need to fill up our own glass. But on the flip side, Venus is also square the moon's nodes. We also have to address these dynamics in our relationships. We can't just cop out or disassociate this way and try to avoid others, or avoid what's really going on beneath the surface. So we have to really master this balance of taking care of ourselves. That way we can go out in the world and catalyze change and honor our soul's passions and connect with others intimately, in a real way, in a non-superficial way that will simultaneously encourage our own soul's forward growth. And so here's the challenges and the opportunities of this full moon. And by balancing this retreating in, Venus retrogrades also more Taurus. It's about going in and discovering this treasure chest in our heart, what we love, cherish, and value, what we desire to share with others. So we're retreating in, we're discovering and pioneering the new body methods, the new meditation methods that allow our nervous system to relax. If we don't, this can be a period of blowing up, or arguments, or panic attacks. And so we need to slow down. We need to do this Buddhist simplification. Just breathing in and breathing out in itself is one of the most medicinal, healing, and blissful gifts that every human has as a part of our natural body's makeup. So we're tuning into all of these things. That way we can submerge into the world and in our relationships on the outside as well. So we can form powerful alliances, we can find mutually supporting groups and relationships, and we can feel acknowledged to be the unique individual that we are without suppressing our deeper soul's passions, and be able to connect with like minds who are doing similar endeavors and encouraging us to keep going as we return the same. Now, of the big energetic shifts going on now through November, Uranus is also moving retrograde back into the sign of Aries on November 6th and is going to remain there through March of 2019. So Uranus is going to be completing, basically November to March 2019, his 7-year transit through Aries that began in 2011. And this transit, Uranus through Aries, has been about liberation of the individual, breaking free of any of the past chains of the limiting identities that represses who we actually are, the directions that we want to initiate with the confidence to be the unique individuals that we are. Uranus in Aries is the pioneer, the way paver, breaking into new dimensional possibilities by going where no man dares to go, by initiating new paths forward. And so this is a period about coming into who we are as individuals. That way we can be the pioneers opening up new pathways and leading others into the future. And these next several months are very exciting about liberating this energy, this passion, and this sense of direction to have the confidence to initiate and to lead. This also deals with sexual liberation. Aries is ruled by Mars, this very sexual, very masculine passion, energy. When we talk about chi, this is Aries. And so we are harnessing this chi. We're filling ourselves up with energy. That way we can be these confident leaders in the world. Chiron has moved back into Pisces until February of 2019, and then is going to move into Aries for roughly the next decade. So there is this healing also of these fears, these nebulous paranoias or insecurities coming from the collective, the world, the beliefs that we were taught and conditioned, coming from thousands of years of distortions, of patriarchal ideas. And we are healing our own soul's innocence. So again, we can enter the world as spiritual warriors. These years are preparing the spiritual warriors to address the things that we must in the world, to stand up for the causes that we are passionate about, to be the humanitarian leaders and initiators that is needed in the world at this time. This is what is really incubating and is having these loose ends wrapped up, these old patterns, these old addictions, these old inadequacies addressed and swept out. And again, with this Venus retrograde, this connecting and sharing with others, and not just who, but how we're connecting and sharing with others, to honor this individual that is being born and liberating itself. That way we can stand up for who we are, because it is our own unique desires coming from our soul's depth, which is our purpose for being. These desires is the jet fuel for our evolution, as well as our contribution back to the world. So by honoring our own desires, yes, even our own selfish desires, what I alone desire to do, when we own that authentically, this will come full circle into the gifts that we are sharing and contributing back to the world. Therefore, we cannot conform to the world's expectations first. Oh, be a machine. It's a mass production, mass consumerist world, so get a desk job and make a bunch of money. That suppresses our individual desires, which prevents us from being the leaders, teachers, and healers that we are in our truth. Rather, by honoring and acknowledging our own identity, our own God-given sensitivities and gifts, this is what allows us to embody, Taurus, these things, to fill up our glass, to fill up our container with what we authentically value, so that way we can share these treasures and gifts with others out there in the world. Again, make sure to slow down and relax. Whatever it may be, these weeks, put in the extra effort. Whether it be a cold shower first thing in the morning that keeps you relaxed and the nervous system low throughout the rest of the day. Check out Van Hoff. I've been really into him lately. Or whether it's doing the workout so that way we feel at ease. Having the snacks in the cupboard ready. So that way if we start to feel on empty and we start to feel frustrated, boom, snacks are ready to go, and we're calming our bodies and we're calming our nervous systems. And in this way, we can really break in some new patterns, some new habits, some new rituals, some new routines that can take us very far and allow us to be more integrated and embodied enough to share our authentic truth with others. We do need to be careful and calm in our conversations. Mercury is going to square Mars this Friday, the 19th. This can be instinctual outbursts, arguments, frustration, and anxiety. So, this can be debates, and we do have to honor our differences, which means listen. We have to listen carefully. This is my perspective, this is my idea, and then I'm going to listen to your perspective and idea. And even if they're different, that doesn't mean that either one of us is wrong. That doesn't mean that anyone needs to consider themselves a failure or a problem, right? And this is a huge issue collectively in our world that we're going to see a lot of in this coming year of 2019, is blaming and pointing the finger. Bad guys are responsible for this. It's the President of the United States. It's the Illuminati. It's this extraterrestrial race that has built bases on the moon. We are just full of excuses as to why our Earth is full of all these problems, when all of this pointing and blaming and arguing is us taking our power to be catalysts of change and helpers and healers in the world and giving it away to these ideas and fanciful enemies that are out there. So this is about being real and having these important conversations, because this can trigger change and transformation in a healthy way. But we have to be open-minded. We have to listen. Asteroid Juno, the partnership asteroid, is retrograde the whole time Venus is, opposite to Mercury on the 30th, and then opposite to Jupiter, November 2nd. This can also create this more so propensity to misunderstand ourselves and our partners in communications. We have to practice listening. And by bringing these things up, we do have to talk about potential disagreements, but in so addressing these topics, we can discover the necessary mutual code of conduct or philosophy that allows for a meeting of the minds in harmony and balance. And this is where all of this work and all of this real talk is leading us into. Venus retrogrades back into Libra on the 31st and is going to station direct at 25 degrees of Libra on November 16th. This is this resolution, and we're forming more equal, mutually supportive connections in our relationships. That way we can be together and support one another harmoniously, in balance. Venus is the master of justice and equality. It is a beautiful thing that Venus is stationing direct in her own sign, mid-November. Now Mercury is coming up to Jupiter. Let's see here. On Monday the 29th, next week. And so there's this deep penetrative insight. Mercury and Jupiter in Scorpio is the human detective, seeing through others like they're made of glass, the human X-ray machine. There's this deep penetrative lens that is allowing us to see so deeply into our real world situation, our own unconscious dynamics, what is hidden or beneath the surface, or other people's ulterior motives, or what's really going on in our relationships. So again, it is our deep penetrative vision, our willingness to talk about what's really going on, that can allow these resolutions to be brought forward, and for us to discover ways of connecting and sharing that can be very creative, very collaborative, and very mutually inspiring. And so this is where things can really be taking us towards the end of the month. And then on October 31st, Mercury enters Jupiter's sign of Sagittarius throughout November. And it's this very intuitive, insightful, big picture perspective that will allow us to see everything that we're wrapping up and where things can be moving as these big cycles and seasons are shifting now through November. So stick around for the next report, because we'll be talking about Jupiter in Sagittarius and the moon's north node in Cancer. Speaking of Jupiter in Sagittarius, my goodness, I have to offer this opportunity. If you haven't already heard, myself and the Dream Team astrologers of New Paradigm Astrology, we're putting together our first evolutionary astrology complete course for birth chart interpretation. So if you've been wanting to learn astrology, here is a fantastic opportunity to learn. It's going to be beginning at the end of this month and take us through the next couple years. So the first part, beginning at the end of October, is about preliminary astrology, the zodiac, okay, basic astronomy, understanding the evolution of the zodiac, understanding the elements and the modalities of the zodiac. And then continuing this program forward, we're going to get into the deep evolutionary astrology, as was taught by Jeffrey Wolf Green, understanding the nature of the soul and our evolutionary reasons, our purpose for living our life. Not just what happens to us, but why we live through the experiences that we do. Evolutionary astrology allows us to know It's an extremely powerful gift, very much ahead of its time. So again, this opportunity is available to you. Anyone who wants to connect more with myself for additional question and answers, written astrology horoscopes, check out my Patreon page at the link below. And otherwise, I'm wishing absolutely all the best to yourself and your beloveds through this exciting period of transformation and change. Do take care.